This month, Tumble Track is having 10% off on carpet bonded foam, and they're having a June celebration sale. So if you need a beam for your living room, do you need a laser beam for your gym? Do you need an air floor for your lawn? All of that is on sale. Visit TumbleTrack at TUMBLTRAK at tumbletrack.com. Train smart. Remember, the show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. I do want to mention that Spencer is doing well. He's preparing for chemo. His surgery went well, and he was feeling well enough to live vlog this weekend and also join us for behind the scenes after podium training, after the first day of U.S. Championships, and after the second day of U.S. Championships. So you can listen to all of those episodes and get Spencer and I's take. If you would like to, visit gymcastic.com, and you can also get even more of those episodes by joining Club Gym Nerd. I hope you guys enjoy it. Secondly, our live show has sold out, but we're going to be able to sell more in-person tickets. So join the wait list on Eventbrite. And as soon as the new availability go on sale, you will be able to buy those in-person tickets. Virtual is still available. Simone Biles won her 9th U.S. championship. 2 petitions were accepted to Olympic trials. We're going to tell you everything that happened at championships, all the Gymternet news. The date is June 4th, 2024. And welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Ari Saperstein. Ari's here filling in for Spencer, and he's been a reporter with and producer with NPR Los Angeles, This American Life. He's written for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, lots of amazing publications. But most relevant to today, he's the host of the Blind Landing podcast. The first season was all about the vault debacle in Sydney.
Yeah, so we had, Elise Ray, Alana Slater, Svetlana Horkina. That was a hard one to get, but that was as fun and colorful as you would probably expect her to be. And we have a new season coming out. By the time this episode comes out, or maybe later this week, you should be able to hear our new series that's just looking at what's changed in women's gymnastics in the past 10 years. And check it out. That's Blind Landing Podcast. But let's jump into this episode here, Jessica.
Yeah, so let's talk about the headlines. And I think the most important headline for all of this is that Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast of all time, and no one should take her for granted ever. And if you get a chance to see her in person, you should do it, like the heroes who flew from Australia just to come to championships. So, Ari, tell me about the records and your thoughts on Simone.
First off, I devastatingly have yet to see Simone in person. I will be at Olympic trials. If you see me, come say hi to me. I'm going to be recording. I probably want to talk to you. But I got to watch on TV from home her 9th all-around national title. Absurd. Bringing her to 32 national titles. Equally absurd. She went above 60 in the all-around. I didn't have that on my bingo card. And I think, is she the only one this cycle to break 60 in the all-around?
She's the only one that's gotten a 60.
So, just classic Simone things. And I think the other bingo card no one had was that she would sweep every event. That's including uneven bars. Because Chiles was out. Presumably, maybe she would have taken the top spot if she was there. Do we know if Simone has done that before? I was wondering, 2018, the year she medaled at Worlds on bars. But thankfully, we have Coop in the chat who says, yeah, she has done it before. So that's somehow more amazing than even doing it for the first time to repeat and sweep.
I just feel like I want to re-emphasize how lucky we are that she still wants to do this. And I don't often go back into all of the history, but I think it's important to remember, again, everything that's happened to her just in her life, from going into foster care, suffering from abuse, having the twisties out of the Olympics, being the #1 focus of many people's absurd, racist, and ridiculous abuse online, to having people upset about her husband, choice of husband, to all of this, she still chooses to grace us with her gymnastics. She doesn't have to put up with this, and she still chooses to do it. And I think I just want to frame why we're so lucky to have her still choose to do her gymnastics for us by playing a clip from what Cecile Landy, her coach, said about her career. Here.
I think so, but it's not even the skills, it's the attitude and her behavior. It's just I truly feel like she's happy to be here. I know she says she's ready to be done, but I think she's really enjoying it and appreciating every meet she gets to do. Unfortunately, we see a lot of people with injuries, and she feels, prepared and lucky to be able to do this.
In case you didn't catch it, let me play this for you one more time here.
I know she says she's ready to be done.
We're lucky she's ready to be done, but she's still sticking around. I just want to note there, like, Simone is so incredibly healthy, because it's one thing to do gymnastics for this long. There are some people, but she can do it, even with her smashed to bits toe.
We don't talk about that enough. How, I think at some point there was a little ankle thing, a little shoulder thing early on, though, of course, the Doha Pearl. But yeah, that she has avoided these injuries that a lot of the front runners right now are contending with and trying to work through, or that often take people out at some point in their career. It's just, I don't know. She's had great coaches and a great support system who's taken really good care of her, and she has had some unbelievable genetics, and that combination has it is quite unbelievable how healthy she has been in this. What, we're going on 11 years of senior elite now.
Elite, yep. And I think if you're new to, we get a lot of new listeners. So if you haven't been listening to this for following gymnastics for your entire life, the Doha Pearl is the name that, I don't remember who gave this. Is Simone give this name to her kidney stone that she had in 2018 in Doha and competed with? So if you know how painful a kidney stone is, and maybe if you've been on the floor writhing in pain with one, imagine doing elite gymnastics with one. That's what Simone did. Simone also talked about her body and the effect that social media has had on her career. And I was really shocked to hear her say this about her body, because I've never heard her talk like this, except in a joking way. And when we talk about her stamina and her endurance and how healthy she is.
2 days of competition, because after classics, I could barely walk afterwards. So I was like, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do championships. So I've already exceeded my expectations there. But to just go out there and hit most of my routines, it just feels really nice, because I haven't done that since championships, their worlds. So to just take that momentum and keep going forward.
Another quote that she said at some point, she said how she's been working in therapy to not say, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Which is so funny, because if you've been following the sport and following Simone for a while, it's really been a joke that she will make a lot. And it's funny because I've heard her say it so many times, and it's never clocked my ear as there could be a negative repercussion of it. And it was cool for her to kind of, I don't know, be doing that work in therapy, to grow, to realize it is to break a habit that she's been doing for many years. It was just, I don't know. It's another part of what makes her remarkable, I think. Yeah.
And it is one of those things, like talking about death, it's just a thing you do 100 times in the gym. It's super common because it's on your mind. You have a joke about it. But I never thought about the negative reinforcement that we do all the time.
Negative reinforcement. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
I was like, oh, that's probably bad. We should all probably take a note from Simone and her therapist about that.
Bring that up next time in my session. Yeah.
I also want to play this clip from the press conference, which is up on our YouTube page. She talks about handling pressure and avoiding Twitter. And Cecile has some things to say here too, her coach.
Yeah, so usually as the Olympic Games gets closer, I usually try not to look at Twitter, because I think that's the biggest culprit of just everybody adding in their unsolicited opinion, whether they want us to see it or they want us to see it. So I usually try to shut down that, but just leaning on friends, family, who surround ourselves with good people, and just keep a good head on and just start training. That's all we can do at this point, really.
I think the pressure comes mostly from you guys. The public, she could do a cartwheel, they'll be happy to see her. So at the end, she just does the best Simone, and that's it, I think the pressure is from the media.
You guys are usually so kind. So kind.
Most of you are kind, but some. But we try to avoid it, but I think it's just...
I think it's everybody who thinks they're a reporter.
Yes.
Not the real ones.
And I actually want to jump in and say, you said haters, and I think it's interesting that Simone said, unsolicited opinions, right? Because I think it's not even people that are like trying to be a dick, but just I can't imagine what it would be like to be a gymnast listening to even what we're going to talk about today about them. Just to even hear yourself talked about in third person is kind of a mindfuck. And I think it makes sense to be like, look, noise, good or bad, the best thing is just to take a step back from it.
And I wanted to play that clip because I wanted to put into context her dominance despite all the stuff that she has to deal with. Yeah, I just think it's like over a decade of dominance in anything, let alone sports, is not normal. Since Simone won her first national championship in 2013, she has only lost one competition, which happened to be to eventual Olympic champion Suni Lee. Only one competition has she lost that she completed. Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
She has
Yes.
started not able to finish twice.
We're just that's counting for Tokyo. Got it.
Tokyo and Classic, where Amy was like, "You're going to kill yourself. You're not competing."
Is there anything, Jessica, that you've been dominant at for a decade in your household, in your family, in your life, anywhere?
I mean, being the #1 gymnastics podcast in the world for 12 years, you know,
Podcasting for a decade.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, just to talk a little more about putting it in perspective, how crazy this is. It's like 11 years since her first senior debut, like you talked about. And the greatest of all time moniker took her. This is how hard it is to get where she is. It's only last year in 2023, after Tokyo, that she became, by the record book, the greatest of all time. That's 13 years into her elite career because she started as a junior. 10 years after her first world championship, she finally tied for the 35 world and all-around medals and then beat it by 2 medals. Now she has 37 World Olympic medals. I just want to re-emphasize how hard it is to get where she's been.
I guess in summation, we could say Simone good.
Some updates for you from Gymcastic world. So next week, we have an interview with 3 coaches of world champions. Kaliya Washington, who coached world all-around champion Morgan Hurd. Owen Field from the college and elite simultaneously route. Current coach of Leanne Wong and Trinity Thomas. And coached DiCello in college at Florida, and then Sarah Korngold, who was Levi's coach and now is Shilese Jones's coach. They're going to talk about why they decided to recently go on social media, injury management, camp culture, food, and we have some sabotage stories, you guys. So that is coming up next week. We have our live show at Olympic Trials in Minnesota. We also have merchandise available. So if you want your Simone freaking Biles t-shirt or banner, you can get that in the Gymcastic store. Go to gymcastic.com store tab. And if you're a new member, welcome. Bonus episodes on Friday, VIP section in the forum, early bird discount on live shows, plus extra episodes during major competitions, like live shows coming up from Olympic Trials. Like we just had 3 live episodes, behind the scenes episodes from the US Championships. And then during the Olympics, we have almost daily podcasts from the Olympic Games. So it is a marathon for us coming up. Look forward to that and check out Club Gym Nerd. And thanks to all of our new listeners. Before we get into the meat of championships and all the details, there's 2 things I want to talk about. The first of which is that on podium training day, Gabby was not there. Gabby Douglas, all-around champion, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, was not there at championships. And then we found out that she had hurt her ankle in practice and had pulled out of the competition. The second thing I want to talk about is what happened between Simone and Suni after Suni tried to vault on the second day, her Yurchenko double full again, and it didn't go well, and she ended up sitting it down, and then Simone went over to her, and this is what happened.
That I needed help in the moment. She out of anyone understands basically what I did on vault, so she just came over to see if I was okay, and basically just telling me everything was going to be okay and to remember my key words and that I can do hard things. And yeah, it was just super helpful. I mean, I don't think I could have done it without her. She's been one of my biggest inspirations for a long time. I know that kind of teammates and competitors, but she's somebody that I look up to, so to hear those words coming from her means a lot. Basically just help boost me up and get my confidence back up, because at that point I was kind of like thinking that this was over, so it was really nice having her in my corner, and she's just been so supportive, and to have her on bars too giving me advice it just felt so good, because I know I was having a hard time and she was just there to help lift me up, so I'm super grateful for her. She told me to just breathe, do my normal. She asked me if like I got lost, or like if it was just kind of like a fluke, like if anything else happened on the run or anything, because like I said, she knows more than anyone and she's experienced that, so she was just checking to see if I was like okay mentally before I went out there, and she said if I was getting lost like on my dismount, then to just be done and like let it be. But yeah, she was just telling me that everything was gonna be fine.
What did happen on the vault?
I don't know. I think I just like overran it, and then I kind of got too far back on the board, and then I got back on the table, and by that time I tried to do a double, but I didn't know where I was, but I knew exactly where I was, if that makes sense. So I just put it to my butt, and it was okay.
Were you thinking about not continuing the competition?
No, I was thinking about continuing, but I was just kind of worried that like I would kind of carry that over to the other events. So in my head, I was already like, okay, I'm done. Like, this is it. But having my coaches and even like the medical staff, like all of them just helped boost me up, and it helped me a lot. Especially going through that kind of like weird incident. I feel like I've never done that before. It helps me a lot knowing that I can kind of come back from that and to stay focused. I feel like I don't even need to be perfect on like beam and bars to get where I want to be. So that's just like the reminder that I just have to go out there and do my normal. I would have been second?
Third. You would have been third.
Oh, third. Okay. Wow, that's crazy for my first all-around competition. I was just telling them how happy and excited I was, because this is my first time back on national team since Tokyo, so it feels so good to just be back. And I was constantly asking like, oh my gosh, did I make trials? Did I make trials? And everyone's like, yeah, duh, like you got the red jacket. I'm like, okay. So I'm just trying to like keep my composure, and now I know that I just have to go back into the gym and work on my consistency, get my bar routine with full difficulty, and finish. Keep staying consistent on beam, because I feel like I don't need to do anything more but just like stay calm.
How much more do you think you can add to that bar routine?
I think we're trying to add just an Abieva pack full into it. I think it gets me like a 6. I don't know, you're gonna have to ask him. A 6 something. So if I can keep it clean, then I can get like a high 14, and I think I'll be in a good spot and get my ball back on track. I think I'm definitely on the right track. I feel like a couple more weeks under my belt and I'll be right where I want to be. My coaches have done such a good job of like really pacing me out, and I know there's a lot of people that like doubt that, but the tweeters, you know how it goes. Yeah.
Now here's what Simone had to say about that interaction.
Yes. So after Suni vaulted, I knew exactly what was going through her head. I dealt with that in Tokyo. So I just knew that she needed some encouragement and somebody to trust her gymnastics for her and to believe in her. So that's exactly what I did. I went back there and I went to talk to her, and I was like, did you get lost, or did you just decide to do a 1.5? So we kind of discussed that. And I was like, you know what? Don't overthink your gymnastics. You're fine. If you want me to stand over there for bars, she was like, can you please stand over there for bars? So that's why I went over there for bars as well. Because I've been in her shoes. I've done that exact thing, and I know how traumatizing it is, especially on a big stage like this. And I didn't want her to get in her head. So we just went and talked about it while she was in the back. And then when she came out, I went to support her.
Gymnasts, totally well-meaning, say generic statements a lot of the time that maybe they mean it, maybe they don't, about like, I'm here to support my teammates, I'm out there for them, I'm cheering them on. But again, it was a thing that was really credible, the way that they both talked about this, I guess, or really genuine, maybe is the better word, about, you know, because it ties back to what Simone was saying a couple of times this weekend of like, wow, I'm so happy Jay, Jordan, and Suni are here. I'm so happy to have other people who've been in it before, like the eyeballs on other Olympians. Just we're kind of sharing in the pressure together. And it seemed like it was meaningful for both of them, for Simone to show up in that way and for Suni to receive that. And I don't know about you, but I mean, don't you feel like it's such a testament to how much is changing in the sport so quickly?
There's a couple things about this. The first thing is like how rare this is in gymnastics to see, because not because teammates don't support each other, but to leave your event. So Simone was on floor. She finished her warm up on floor. She left floor, went to bars, stayed with Suni. We rarely see this, even in
Yeah,
college.
that's a
I mean,
great
I
point.
said on our behind the scenes, it's like Jordan Chiles is pretty much the only one I see doing this in
Yeah.
college, even. So, and I honestly, I don't know if you're allowed to do this in FIG competition. I would have to look it up. If you can leave your event, it's like you can go to the bathroom and come back, but I don't know if you can actually go to another event. So the fact that Simone did this, went somewhere else to encourage her teammate, is amazing. And I feel like it's also a testament to, like, you know, one of the things that we've seen in Simone from the beginning, from when she was a little junior, is Simone is always Simone, no matter where she goes and under whatever, no matter the context, she will be herself. So if she feels like this is what she needs to do, she's going to do it. She is always the person that you can't suppress her character. And so this was
Yeah.
something she felt like she wanted to do, and she did it.
And it, it seemed like it had a great effect because Suni went, 2 solid days of hitting bars. That was, I don't remember the exact D, but it was like 5.7, 5.8-ish, right? I mean, it was for her pretty low. And the execution, I think that's the thing about Suni, is ultimately the execution is just so good across the board. And there's some execution questions about how that's being judged here in relation to what we might see at the Olympics, but not really with Suni. And with Simone, I'd put in that category too. It's just, it's so good. I think that's where we're both saying, like, the potential of what we're going to see next, that trials of what we're going to see at the Olympics, the fact that she, got pretty close to finishing top on beam, right? She was the only person on beam that came close to Simone, right? She got the 14.9. I mean, I'm just going to be a broken record here because I'm sure it's what we've been, saying all along for the past 6 months, but it's the beam and bars, almost beam alone in some ways, of just how undeniable that is. Couple that with the all around, couple that with 2 days of a really perfectly fine floor score, a usable floor score in a pinch too, which wasn't a guaranteed. It just, the path feels really clear. Yeah. Fourth here. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, and almost 2 months until she actually has to compete in Paris. And yeah, and her coach talked a lot about, getting her conditioning back. And I just think it's also another person we have to put in context for anyone that's new, is everything she's gone through, which is like,
Absolutely.
having,
Not even fucking, kidney disease.
having two different kidney conditions, not just one that then revealed the second kidney condition, and that she's in remission now. And since she's been in remission, she's able to eat more things, not like eating the wrong thing can totally, with too much salt, then, makes her so swollen she can't do gymnastics. And so
And that
she
can't
has,
be easy to also go through that much change on your body in such a short period of time. I mean, I'm only saying this because she's talked about the kind of gains and then, kind of commensurate
40 pounds of water weight, and people didn't believe her. And she's like, here's the photos, 40 pounds of water weight. Can you imagine just walking with that, let alone trying to do gymnastics? It would be so scary too.
I think it seems like it would be a very disorienting experience.
Right.
Like that's probably the main word, is all of that, the lack of consistency in kind of what you can expect in your life. It just, I don't know, it seems like a very disorienting experience.
Okay, let's talk about US championships.
Simone in first by 6-point margin. It was a 119 2-day combined score. It was Skye Blakeley. This, for if you are really just listening for the first time, this person who has been to the World Championships a couple times, been sort of right in the rung below the main contenders, who just shot up to the top because of her vault and having a great competition overall. And she had a little distance between the third place bronze medalist, Kayla DiCello, who was an alternate last Olympics, and has just been taken the route of consistency to try and angle towards getting named to the team. And the US Nationals was the qualifying event to the US Olympic trials in a couple weeks.
Suni Lee Olympic champion, reigning Olympic champion in the all-around, came in 4th. Jordan Chiles 5th, Hesley, Rivera, Jade Carey, and then Leanne Wong. So in terms of this meet, top 14 by rank all-around order were chosen to go to the Olympic trials. We had the top 2 automatically qualify, but then they took another 12. That included 2 petitioners, multi-world medalist, Shilese Jones. Petition was accepted. She has a sore shoulder. Athlete of the Year, Kaliya was chosen. This might surprise people that Kaliya, I think Chilese is like the presumptive person that's on the team with Simone based on her being top 3 all around the last 2 world championships with Andrade. So you assume that she's going to make the team and her shoulder will be okay. Her coach said if it was Olympic trials, we would have gone. We're just letting inflammation go down. Tell me about Kaliya.
Yeah, I mean, you said Kaliya might be a surprise. I would say a surprise insofar as I think a lot of spectators were worried that they would go rank order plus Shilese end of list at that point, because Kaliya's really made her case on floor, right? I mean, with just going over 14 internationally and just having a pretty consistent track record in her senior career. So I think there are a lot of sighs of relief to see her, because we could imagine a world where she makes a lot of sense in that 5th spot as we talk about sort of where things are standing right now. If you do sort of the highest scoring team assembly permeation, this is the person that would be on it. So that was good. And I guess, just 2 headlines that I had watching it was, I wrote down in my notes here, it's WCC's world and we're just living in it. I mean, I think someone asked Simone on the broadcast or in the press conference afterwards, like,
that was
when
me.
even, who could it have been? Jessica asked Simone, right? Like, when even has this happened? Like, this is so, kind of unprecedented. Maybe you had said there's been 30 years, right? Basically since, it was the Karolyi's national team that was also just comprised of all of his own gymnasts that was, happening. And I mean, it's so unbelievable because of just how new of a gym it is too. It was 14, 15 that they opened it. I mean, that's barely, 8, 9 years there. So that was amazing. I think the other headline was, scoring is so subjective to each meet, but just as we've been looking at certain thresholds for all around 44, 45, 56 at the past couple world championships, at the past couple national championships, I didn't expect as many people to clear 56 and get as close to 56 as happened at this competition. And I don't know, I think it's just really exciting to think about what trials is going to look like if people keep pushing that higher. And the idea that, especially someone like Skye or Suni or maybe even Kayla is putting a little bit of pressure on Shilese, not to make the team, but for that second place finish spot at trials it's a cool level of competition. Because I thought maybe Shilese had distanced herself so much that no one could catch her. And this made me go, no, people could catch her.
Yeah. And like the 56, 57 threshold is really exciting because that is, if you want to win a medal at the World Championships, this is the area you need to be in. I mean, of course, Simone is, 4 points ahead with a 60. And I'm sure Andrade will be right there with like a 59 or 58 something. But
like a bad day Andrade is like a 57 something, maybe even a 56 opening a door, right? A bad day Shilese is maybe a 56, the normal 57. Maybe she could even get up to 58 on her most perfect day. So it's just like that pack of 3, right? Simone, Shilese, Andrade felt pretty inevitable and assured until this competition. And I was like, someone could catch them.
Especially since Skye, finally, we've been asking Skye about when she's going to do her Cheng. And just for everybody that I got so many texts that people were like, wait, it's pronounced Chung? It's not Cheng? And we're like, yeah, it's spelled Cheng. It's the way she says her name is Chung. So that's the way we say it now. And it was
Fei, the gymnast that
Chung
first
Fei.
did.
That's how she says it. Exactly.
It's so funny because Jessica and I were going to go through this, rank order, but you can't not talk about Skye's vault because that's the other absolute biggest headline, biggest game changer that happened. I put out a survey on social media earlier today asking people like, what was the most significant routine that we saw? And it's Skye's vault.
Yep. Getting a 15, which Skye was like, I got a 15. I've never gotten one. And I was like, Skye, nobody gets a 15. There's like 3 of you, 4 of you this whole year have gotten a 15. Like I've never
This
gotten
whole
one.
quad that have gotten a 15 on vault. I mean,
Yes. And
yeah.
that's why, I've been asking, I'm sure Skye's sick of this, but I was like, you could do a Cheng and it'd be really, really good. Like, just the single Branny is amazing. Like, when are you going to do it? And she's always like, yeah, I don't know. We'll think about it, whatever. So this time I asked her, and here's what she said.
Training it the week before championships, I was training it higher than competition surface, so kind of to build that confidence in the skill, and it was really consistent. So now I was like, yeah, it's definitely ready to put on hard and I can go higher.
Did you make the decision? Did your coaches make the decision? How?
Coach, but it was the right idea. It definitely helped.
And it just goes to show how good her training was, how well prepared she was to execute it that well. Because the potential's always been there. We've been like, the vault is beautiful, and I do put it up there. It deserved a 15. Like that is not. Yeah, I'm not upset about it.
Let's break down for a second. I didn't know this part about Skye not doing it on a hard surface. Like in the gym, they were doing it to a mat in the pit until they got to Texas.
She was doing it either onto the pit or into resi, or she was doing it like on the hard mats, but with mats stacked up.
Okay. I was like, that's
mat stacked up.
Bold. But okay, so she was doing it in a way where she was landing on a higher
surface than the actual. Yeah, but still that's landing on the hard. Yeah, it's still nuts. Landing on a harder surface is different because it's sometimes like gymnasts, it can be scary to land on the harder surface because it could hurt and you haven't done it. So it says a lot about her ability to hit under different circumstances, especially since her last Olympic trials. So Skye made Olympic trials in 2021, and she had the weirdest incident. She hurdled for vault and like tripped and basically ended up round offing her backside and leg into the vault. So she landed on the front of the vault with one leg curled under her and was injured. It was so strange. It was one of those things where I feel like something in the universe decided now was not the time and it took you out.
I was just going to say, it's an interesting thing, right? Where she was 2005. And so she was one of the people that miraculously an Olympics opened up to her that wouldn't have been available if it were in 2020 because of the age limit change. And it seemed like this amazing opportunity. Mostly her and Connor McLean at the time as kind of the 2 juniors that could really take advantage of it. And then it seemed like, wow, what a weird, I don't know, like mix of fate to have that door open and then to have it so bizarrely closed. I think we're going to talk about some other people later on who this was not their time, but maybe it's the next cycle, much like, it took Skye twice. But yeah, this is her time, like capital HER.
Back to who made Olympic trials, because it is the championships of Simone winning everything, but also it is who makes national team, who goes to trials. And then this is the thing, the women took 16 to Olympic trials. The men took 20. On the one hand, so for gender equity numbers purposes, that 4-person discrepancy bothers me. On the other hand, I can see the men's requirements are different because they have 6 events. And so maybe you want to have top 3 on every single event to take to trials. And they have a whole scoring bonus, D-score thing happening. But I just think from the perspective of should we provide equal opportunity a la Title IX, which does not apply to USA Gymnastics, care for it. They're not taking the bonus score into account this year, but it was part of the way that the men's bonus system worked leading up to this. So, all right, let's go back to talking about all-around order.
Let's just go down the line.
How people finish. So Simone Biles, 60 on day 1, 64.5 on day 1, 59.3 on the second day, winning. She got one of the automatic spots to trials.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of thoughts here from notes that I took watching the TV broadcast. One, I tried looking this up years ago for a blind landing project, which is, the triple double, the Biles 2 on floor. It's so impressive. We can't say enough good words about it. I had this thought of, has Simone, before doing that, ever competed just a triple twist on floor? But I just thought, it really puts it in context how unbelievable it is that the first time she's triple twisting on floor has been competing this skill. It's, because we talk about, especially in the discourse of like coming back from the twisties, it's so good to kind of build up your basic blocks one by one. You just think at some point in her life she would have done that. But no, the first time she's doing a triple is the triple double. To your point earlier about Simone appreciation, I think that also should go in that bucket.
Yeah, because she never competed just a triple twist. She did the triple twist in practice, and she also did a Yurchenko triple twist in practice. But yeah, but never competed that either, because ligaments. We like those. You need those. So very wisely. But yeah, it's nuts that's the first time she did that. Also, you had questions, or you saw a lot of questions about her score for the Yurchenko double pike.
Well, I put a question out on Twitter, a little poll saying, are we on 10 watch?
But I would say under this code, no one can get a 10 on anything, no matter what, because as Suni Lee's coach famously said in the Peacock documentary Golden, you breathe on that dismount, you get 3 tenths. It's just you can't, and she does cross her toes.
But look, I still disagree with that theory from Suni's coach or what you're positing forward, because we've seen her go 9-9 domestic vault. So I don't know. I think it's possible. We also had on the TV broadcast Simone's family and her husband Jonathan furiously taking notes, always a pen in hand, always a paper up. I think they said later on it was that they were tracking the scores and that her husband's trying to learn more about gymnastics. So that's nice.
Yeah, she said in the press conference too that like he likes to, if he learns about something, he wants to know everything about it, which is something I admire greatly. So yeah, he's tracking scores, and I think this is also a reason that like this is the one thing I forgot to talk to Lily about, because I was talking to her all about how brilliant Flip the mascot is and how much I love him. I was like, Lily, if someone new to the sport like Jonathan Owens, whatever, Mr. Biles, has to take notes to keep track of the scores, then we're not doing it right. Once again, you in the arena, you cannot see who's leading. During the rotations, and that's the only time and that's a huge problem with gymnastics. You're forcing people to go to a third screen experience in person. That's not good. You want them engaged.
The person that got closest right there was Kayla DiCello in third, and that, we got to talk about that first day, because Skye put a cumulative 3-point distance across 2 days between her and Kayla, which is really impressive and really amazing. But Kayla DiCello, day 1, U.S. Nationals 2024. I cannot tell you how many times in my notes I wrote, this is the competition of her life. Mm-hmm. This is the meet of her life. It was just everything, all potential, fully executed to the max.
Yeah, coming out of Classic where DiCello had really uncharacteristic falls, this is the thing that normally you can count on DiCello. Like maybe she isn't up there with the highest execution, so she's not going to be in the highest ranking all-around scores, but she always hits. And I was like, 2 falls? What is happening? I was like, oh no, she's overtraining. It's not good, speculating wildly. But then, she came here and 56.85 the first day, just hitting, like she did everything she needed to do that first day. But then second day, only a 53 with a fall and then a wonky beam. That made me a little worried. Like she has to keep, she's in the conversation, but compared to Skye getting a 57 and a 56.8,
I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's just a mental thing, or if it is really getting just totally comfortable in executing to the fullest and taking the split full off on beam. Yeah. Should we talk about that for a second? Because I really wondered, like, how did they come to that conclusion in 36 hours? And I wondered, could be completely wrong, I'm kind of speculating wildly here, just how much a degree internet discourse, not to them, I don't think Kelly's online, right, scrolling through Twitter. I don't know
what happens, and Kelly,
you think we might see it back again?
God, I hope not. But but I think mostly what happens is people, gymnasts and coaches will see how it's being judged. And even though it's clear, it would never get credit in any world. But sometimes it's worth trying it and being like, all right, well, we were wrong. Now we're going to take it out. But we do have an interview coming up next week with 3 world champion coaches who've coached world champions, and we have a long discussion about this. And I asked them many questions about it and why. And I also talked to a judge, a D score judge this weekend, who was like, this is a worldwide problem. It doesn't matter how many times you tell the coaches, you're never going to get the credit for this. And also it doesn't matter, they all do it everywhere. And I don't know if you're aware of the STS system. So it's available to anyone can get on it and see. It's basically an education system that the FIG has for anyone to go on and see what's getting credit, why is it getting credit. Here's an example of people in real life in competition who are getting credit. Here's people who aren't.
Yes, yeah, of course I've seen.
It's basically Americans doing leaps.
Yeah.
Except for Suni doing rings. Like, that is what it is. That's why we're all like, why are you doing this? So I'm sure there is a reason, but I don't know quite what it is, but I'm very happy she took it out. But in terms of like people making adjustments, I think was the bigger question you're asking. I think people like Jade Carey is definitely someone who's going to have to change a lot if she wants to have a shot.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jade more in a second. But I guess just to finish up with Kayla for a second here, I guess I see the potential path right as the Kyla Ross playbook of consistency. We can imagine the 4 S's finishing top 4 easily, and if it really is just that 5th spot, it's not guaranteed, but it was amazing to witness.
Yeah, and speaking of the 4 S's, like for me, it's Simone, Shilese, assuming she is who she normally is, when we see her at trials, and then Skye, and then Suni. And one of the reasons for that is that Suni is, every time she competes, she's getting better and better. And if she had not fallen on her vault, and we assume she talked about adding her Nabieva. Yeah.
And we can look for other places if she did this here, there, the 10s add up.
Right, the 10s add up, especially if she adds her Nabieva back on bars and she adds her Bahardwaj out of it connected. That's one of the things that she can easily do and has done very consistently in the past. So, but they're wisely, slowly upgrading her. And again, you want to peak at the Olympics. You don't want to peak here a month before. So I think for her, she has that potential to 56.9 and put herself into second place position again or close to it with that kind of score. I mean, a Shilese should be there right too, but I see her being in the top 3 after trials.
I think she could be top 3.
I feel like if you're the top 4 all around, it's the 5th spot that I think gets interesting. And that's where we get into talking about the Jordan Chiles position and a few others. So Jordan Chiles went 55 and 55, 55-1 and 55-3, and that's with falls.
Yeah.
So easy if she just doesn't fall to get up. First day was weird. It was a speed floor, came up and bit her, which it does to many people. If you're leaning forward, it will just catapult you backwards by your butt onto your face. And then, which is hilarious to watch, but not so great if you're the gymnast who's trying to prove your spot for Olympic trials or win a national title. And then on beam the second day, she fell.
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing I want to say about Jordan is, it was a really close race between, as we all know, America's uneven bars specialists, Simone Biles and Jordan Chiles. That was such an amazing neck and neck to see go. And it was hilarious on the broadcast. Jordan was like, faux angry at Simone, being like, I almost had this title over you. But yeah, it just speaks to how usable she is across the board, that she was really close to being our national uneven bars champion.
I just feel like, Jordan she's been saying since February that she wants to be known as that girl. And she is. I think that like we saw her confidence rise with like her Beyonce, Leo, on the first day. And then with her capelet warm up, what would I call it? It's not a capelet. It was like a full cape / like if you're a cowboy in Australia and you wear a raincoat. Trench coat, yes. Yeah. But I was like, it's like when she feels really confident and has her swagger back, then she hits. And this is what I felt from like her Leos to her outfits to talking about her cowgirlness with like her family is from New Mexico and knows about ranching and she has horses and all of that stuff, which I was like, what? I had no idea. Speaking of which, I have to mention this. The women declined the cowboy hats. They wore them for some interviews on their own,
I was
but
gonna say, except for Jordan in the interview was wearing it.
yeah,
but,
some wore them afterwards, but they were like, no, because it's like a Fort Worth thing. It's one of their like, you get a Louisville Slugger, like a baseball bat in Louisville, a little baseball bat, and then here you get cowboy hats. But I love that the women were like, no, thank you. Crazy that they did that. Speaking of culture change, can you imagine a time when the 96 team was like, no, thank you. I also really like that they said no to this because honestly, you cannot see people's faces when you take pictures with the cowboy hats on. And it's worse if you're a person of color and have more melanin. You really can't see their faces. And so I like that they declined this in that way for the photos. But some people took them afterwards.
I will say to the Jordan is that girl of it all. So the broadcast cut to her parents wearing that phrase on their shirt. And they said on the broadcast, lots of people in the arena were in it. I don't know if that tracks with, I don't know if you saw that shirt popping up.
Speaking of family cans, the total erasure of Ron Biles. Like what was the family? Like, it was like he was sitting right next to Simone's mom and you could not see him. Yeah. I mean, at least I didn't see him in any of the broadcasts.
We had one pencil shot. Again, that's where I went back to every one of those Biles had a pencil. But I'm going to move us along. And on the topic of family cam, this connects to Hesley Rivera in 6th place because we had a cam of her dad while she was on beam that I thought was pretty odd. I don't know if you ever got your eyes on it, but he was quite stressed out, quite incapable of looking up. And I didn't thought about this as categories before. There's fun stressed out, and I would put that as Raisman's, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like Allie's parents kind of reacting to it, and yes, it's stressful for them, but there's this kind of, I think even the second time around, they were kind of in on it. This was not fun to watch. This was like, woof, I would not want this documented. It was, I felt bad for the man, I will say, but all of his things he was so worried about, I guess, went through great because Hesley Rivera, 6th place. And we talked before about Skye and kind of like the potential of juniors that have turned senior and who's going to come up. And I think we came into this competition thinking that there could be, I don't know, 3 or 4 different juniors that are now recent. This is their first year of being senior, who could just come out of the gate running like this. And it was Hesley. That's who it was. This is kind of her moment. And I would just add that I see this as sort of a Reagan Smith 2016 slot, right? Like, she just was killing it on beam. She's such a strong option there. She's great all around, right? She went above 55 both days. I mean, there's no reason she couldn't. She's right there. She's just, I don't know, 5/10 shy of what Kayla did, right? Kayla, Suni, Jordan, Hesley, they were all within 5/10 of each other. There's no reason she couldn't be the 5th all around. So I don't know. It was not a name that the audience was thinking about. I think so much forefront as the big stars. And not a name NBC was thinking about because they didn't show her day 1 at all until the very end when they were like, oh, I guess we have to. And day 2, we saw someone got some big notes at corporate there because it was, I think, 3 of her 4 routines, which was cool to see that course correction because she deserved it.
And Hesley has always been so beautiful to watch since she was a junior, and she's a junior national champion previously. She's just so lovely to watch. And so to see her finally get like the D score matching her E score and actually be able to hit, because the classic wasn't great for her, putting it together here, I think was really important for her making the case, because she can do it. If you want someone that's maximizing on their execution the way Suni does, Suni has crazy hard bars and
no, Hesley is kind of in right there, yeah.
She's lovely to watch. And a 14-1 was her high on beam, which is an excellent beam score. Puts her in 4th on beam. So if you want to maximize there, Hesley is the one. Jade Carey, shall we go to the Jays now?
She got 3rd on vault behind Skye, and that was interesting because I think maybe it's important to know, like, she didn't have bad vaults. She had really, really solid vaults across the board. I think the Cheng went around 9-ish, and the doubles went in the low
9.4, 9.3.
Yeah, and she got 9. She and Kayla both got 9.4s for their doubles. So I don't see Skye's vaults as kind of pushing her out of the running. She's right there with it. I did want to ask about what you think about the dance element credits on floor, especially day 2, where everybody seemed to be going up and up on floor, right? Tiana went close to 14, if not 14, right? And Jordan went 14.1, and again, Skye got up to 13.7, and Jade was kind of again capping out at 13.7 with a hit day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had some questions about her scoring compared to Jordan's for some similar stuff.
I think, yeah, there are some dance elements that I think Jordan shouldn't have gotten credit for, like her 1.5, her split 1.5. But I think Jade is the one that like really has to change things up on floor and has to because she should be able to score higher. And I think some of it comes down to looking, she can pay herself 8/10 with the artistry checklist.
So 8th place, Leanne Wong. Yeah, what thoughts?
Yeah, so I think like Jade had, one fall. And Leanne Wong is another one that didn't have a good day 2. And I think Leanne can be a mid 55s, 56 consistent gymnast, which puts her right in the range of you're in the 4th or 5th place for the team. So I think, she also reworked her floor. I think there is she does really well when she's super pissed off. So I think after beam, she looked really mad because she had an almost fall and on her dismount and a leg up. It wasn't great for her. So I'm just hoping she gets it together in terms of, I just feel like it's mental at this point. And I don't know if maybe she needs to take some stuff on her plate. She's doing school at the same time, and that's worked for her in the past. She's done her best when she's done school and elite at the same time. That's when she was second all around in 2021 Worlds.
Can't even imagine that being the
like
kind of human, but
organic
to each their own. Yeah,
chemistry, and she runs a business, so
it's so close, and there's not really a wrong answer ultimately for who is on this team, in my opinion. I'm sure listeners are sort of shaking their heads like, no, there is a right answer. There's a right answer. And I want to hear what all of you think it is, but it's just so close. And we're not even done talking about some of the main contenders, because there's Tiana Sumanasakra, who was 3rd on floor, right? 3rd?
Yep. Sumanasakra was 3rd, and she was part of the group of people who did not have a fall the entire competition. So the gymnasts that went, that hit all 8 routines, Skye, Skye, Hesley, Simone Rose, Tiana, Evie Lowe, Dolce, and Addison Feta. And going back to like this, that's how small the group is out of the 36 gymnasts that finished the competition, because there was 41 to start. That's how rare it was to hit everything. Even Simone didn't hit everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say Simone, because a 15 with a fall is still, but you're right, Simone didn't hit. Yeah,
that's how good she had a fall on vault. So that's how, because you can get that score with a fall. But there is a large group in the middle of the contenders in the 54-55 area where they all had a fall. So at trials, it might come down to who actually hits of that group. But Tiana, I want to know about your she's part of that WCC group, and I want to know about your experience watching with your friend.
I was telling Jessica about this. So I have one of my best friends, Ishi is her name. She's Indian American, and we were watching day 1 of nationals together, and Tiana's Sri Lankan. It's a different heritage, but still nonetheless, just kind of seeing someone from that's of South Asian descent, and just kind of the kind of performance she was doing. It was really cool. to watch it with my friend, because the reaction she had to seeing that representation really made her light up. And she was a former gymnast when she was a kid. And I don't, I don't think around my age, I don't think she, would have seen, kind of any other sort of elite national contenders, sort of in a non-Olympic year that also might be of the same, shared heritage.
Just popping in to add this little edit here. Obviously, Mohini Bhardwaj, 2004 Olympic silver medalist, Indian American, but this is his friend's experience. Just, it's not Mohini erasure, just so you know.
I guess I can just imagine how many other people it's meaningful to see that level of representation to. The exact same way that the number of Black gymnasts that we've seen, not just entering the sport, but really becoming dominant in the sport.
And we've seen these generations. We had like the Gabby Douglas generation, then we have the Simone Biles generations of gymnasts, of color coming into the sport. And then to see how it was for Suni, and the Hmong community is so small. Yeah. And to see, I remember someone wrote in, I used to say, I'm Hmong, it's a very small group, persecuted, this long speech. And now she just says, oh, I'm Hmong like Suni Lee.
That's cool.
And that kind of thing is so meaningful. And I wonder if we're going to see another influx of the Tiana generation.
Yeah. There's room for everyone and for a vast array of greater representation to happen going forward. I know that might sound like high horse preachy or like pretentious or something, but I'm genuinely meaning it when I say it, because it was just palpable watching it with my friend who it meant something to.
Right. So, like, I think about this the same way. And to have the example of when you have someone who is Indian American watching this and it touching them so much because they see themselves is so important. And I think about all the times that we watched gymnastics, there are no out gay gymnasts, more than two, but two very prominent, one on television and one competing. The out gay gymnast that I'm talking about on the broadcast is Lori Hernandez, who has been
in a relationship with
another Olympian, the Olympic alternate Charlotte Drury for trampoline. And then we have Sam Phillips for the men, who's a Nebraska gymnast and is also the athlete rep for men's.
Yeah, if I can, I'll just plug the second season of Blind Landing was a really cool oral history about homophobia in the sport of figure skating, which is like kind of surprising to consider. To really understand what the barriers inside of sport can be like for someone who doesn't quote unquote fit the mold, and the impact that has on other athletes and audiences it's easy to underestimate. So I think the last athlete we want to like dedicate specific time to really quickly is Jocelyn Robertson.
Came in 10th.
Yeah.
Definitely like came back the first day. I was like, oh no, I feel like it's getting to her, like the pressure. It's the Olympic year. This is like her lifelong dream. And here it is. And we've been watching her do standing fulls on beam since she was like 5 years old, I think. But then she came back the second day and just killed it. She
14
hit everything.
14 on floor. That's, that's the mark to really be considered. The vaults, it's a hurdle to get over. It's not that she can't. It's not that they, couldn't, kind of improve, because we've seen her at that level. I guess whatever happened at Worlds, right, that took her out has just been harder than anyone would think to come back from. And it's funny. I don't, it's not like a torn ACL, right? And so I think maybe it doesn't seem as like obviously difficult, but that can easily happen where it's not something that's obviously traumatic. It's this kind of small nagging thing that kind of keeps you back at sort of, 70, 80% or something that there's not a great solution to. And from what they were saying on the broadcast, at least, we can trust that with a grain of salt, that sounds a little bit like what's kind of continued to hamper her. So I don't know. I mean,
she's in a 3-way tie for fourth on floor with Jade Carey, the Olympic champion, and Leanne Wong. So it's
and not that
really
they're Spencer under the bus, but that he was, saying after day one, like, are we even going to see her invited to trials? And then it's like, oh, she got the 14. She's there,
He did say he would take her anyway, just for the potential, though.
Yes,
so that is the thing.
Yes.
She does have the potential.
Yeah, totally.
I do want to ask specifically about, in terms of who was invited to trials. There, in general, I think it was uncontroversial, but there are some people that are probably not in contention who did get to go versus some people that, had Versus you could argue like a Kaliya Lincoln, who I think is invited for specific reasons. But I want to
would have
go
been burning the buildings down if Kaliya wasn't. Yeah.
right. Because she was on the highest scoring team in 2023 and they didn't take her. And she is still on the highest scoring teams because of specifically her floor potential is the biggest thing because she's gotten 14 threes, 14
and
this
floor,
year.
floor proven, not just floor potential, floor proven internationally too, if not at
Right.
Worlds, then at, one of the pans.
Yes, one of the pans. I can't keep them
Yeah.
straight anyway. It's a championships, it's a game, it's a this. So in looking at and like unpacking the discretionary criteria, which are basically the non-top 2 all around who automatically go to trials, what are your thoughts on what did they actually do? Because the criteria are basically everything, including an injury, which you cannot petition onto the Olympic team for an injury. You can do it for other things.
You can petition to trials, but not onto the team with
not onto the team for an injury. So what are your thoughts on what we learned about the discretionary criteria, invitations, and what they actually meant?
And I don't know, this was a question I put out on social also for this episode today. And by and large, like what I was hearing from people was, pretty uncontroversial. It's not like there's sort of like a Morgan Hurd 2021, like seriously, you can't, throw her in there omission. But I guess one example that I thought was kind of interesting that some folks brought up was Madre Johnson, who finished 5th on beam and was one of only 6 people to go 14 or higher on beam and was just 0.2 in the all-around away from the last trials invitee, which I think was Dulcie Kaler at 14. And she had a higher single day than any of that kind of 11 to 14 people in 11 to 14 all-around spots. So all this to say, like, I don't know that she's really in contention for the team. So ultimately, is there a major impact? I don't know. But I think it's an interesting thing to consider of, if you get high enough on the event, and what should the cutoff be? Should it be top 3? Should it be top 4? Should it be top 5? Should it be top 6? I don't know. But I guess like she actually showed the potential, just not in the way that they decided they, other than Kaliya and Shilese, would accept to see potential, right? Which was the top 14. She showed I can be one of the top beam people. She showed I had the better single all around day than 4 people above me. I think you should arbitrarily add people, but I also don't think it makes sense to arbitrarily take that top 14 too. So, but having said all of that, this is probably one of the lesser controversial, kind of trial invitees. And that's a really good sign and ultimately a good trend in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Jayla Hang is really the one I was like, if she had just hit beam and not had that fall, I would have liked to see her go. But then there are also some people, I think there's kind of like, I do think it's not very controversial. I would like to see men and women invite the same number. And I think the other thing that we're not taking into account is like, well, TV, there's probably only 10 people, they're going to take, there's a team of 5, and then there's 4 alternates, 2 traveling and 2 stay at home, right?
Yeah.
I would think that, so I would like an alternate for each of those people, but I also think TV is not going to want to meet with only 10 or 12 people. Like, they're going to want to meet with enough people to watch and not it just be Simone and Chiles wrapping their ankles the whole time. So
yeah,
those are my opportunities for comedy. My favorite part of gymnastics, because gymnastics is hilarious.
Oh man, that is a really tough question. It would probably be a tie between Sam saying the line, Skye takes journaling really seriously. Because she was just saying how Skye wrote down sort of like a dream all around score 56, and then she cleared it, which is great. But yeah, just sort of like, like Skye is like a leading voice in the journaling community. I was like, it was just sort of I don't know. It was an interesting way to describe it. She takes journaling very seriously. But I guess the other one, probably the top pick, is the shot from day one of the selection committee which, kind of featured all the core members of USA Gymnastics administration that choose the team, Alicia Sacramone, obviously Zoe Miller, who was in that shot. So Zoe Miller selection committee. Zoe Miller, who was, I'm sure many of you know, but who as an elite at Simone's gym, who was kind of a bar specialist.
The selection committee is Alicia Sacramone, Tatiana Perskaya, and then Jessie DiCello. Also, we do call Zoe Miller Zoe the quote machine Miller after many years of interviewing her. So if you USAG and her TikTok, I think, has some of her behind the scenes interviews, which are very funny and entertaining.
What about you, Jessica? What were the opportunities for comedy from your point of view?
I go into in depth on all of these stories in our behind the scenes, which are up from this past week. There's 3 behind the scenes from podium training, 2 days of competition. But the Australians, there's some people from Australia literally came all the way to Gymcastic listeners, by the way, came all the way from Australia to see Simone Biles. One of them, I'm not sure if the same group, but Evan Manavong, who's Illinois gymnast, was there capturing moments, and he captured this moment. An Australian woman took her shirt off for Suni to sign the shirt, and then Suni was laughing, signed it, threw it back on her. She was wearing a bra, it was no big deal, but I love Australian women because they understand like historicalness and prioritize correctly. Suni or being embarrassed of taking my shirt off, no. Like Australian women, I respect you so much for that. Also, the media requesting from Lily that the emotional support dogs come to the media area so we could also have emotional support dog. But I was like, I feel like this is inappropriate for us to be requesting an emotional. We're not supposed to not be part of the job of USAG. But did I love it when the emotional support dogs came to the media area? Yes, I loved it very much. Netta Roshik practicing, so pommel horse world champion, practicing pommel horse in the back gym. When they had torn down all the men's equipment, he was still back there. So there's a forklift circling him as he's doing pommel horse routines. Like if you want to know how and why he hits when he does, forklifts circling him being like, are you done yet? We are. Also, the NBC person who demoted the guy who tripped Jordan with the wire and clotheslined the WCC team hero, whoever that was, he got demoted on the second day. I appreciate you. Kisses to you.
I would add one more to our comedy from the Nationals weekend, which was, there's a really great tweet that I loved. This was Jennifer Ray 2, who said, whoever is willing to change their name gets the 5th spot. Sordin, Sayla, Sade, who's doing it?
Yes.
It will be a nightmare, I think, for commentators. I think we're going to just hear so many names conflated with each other once it gets to the Olympics. Not to be too definitive about who's going to be on that team, who's making that team, who's there, but...
Are there any other standout routines, gymnast moments that you want to talk about or acknowledge from championships?
Trinity Thomas, after sort of having a rough go of it on floor day 1, coming back to do bars on day 2, was just, I don't know. It was great that the end of this journey, or this part of the journey, if she continues for her, was on that bars note and not on that floor note. And also just amazing how much new difficulty she was breaking out in this past week or 2 at these competitions.
Nola Matthews, who has been been pushing the bars difficulty, has been like in the conversation, just watching her continue to be, for the 2nd year in a row, win the Sportswoman of the Year award from USAG, as she well deserves, because anywhere in the arena you can hear Nola Matthews at any time. Probably right now, if you listen at their window, you could hear Nola Matthews cheering you on from wherever she is. And then the art of her floor routine, it's so beautiful. I love the Leo that she wore that was so like emo sleek on her last performance. And she's another one like Addison Feta, who've been on all the assignments. They've gone everywhere, like, so that all these like the very top all-arounders can rest. Like there's a group who have gone to all the Pan games, who've gone to all the European, season meets. They've traveled all over, and Nola and Addison Feta are two of those. And talk about like endurance. Feta has done, I swear, more gymnastics than anyone in this past year. She's going to be so incredibly successful in college when she goes to Oklahoma, because no one can do the amount of gymnastics that's required for college gymnastics like she has already proved by her elite endurance. She's always competing, super impressive. And then Simone Rose, who did make it to trials, and I think her floor is one of my, top 3 in terms of art in elite. And especially, I just love how in the end, she eats your soul at the end of her routine. She swallows it. And then she finishes her routine and keeps staring always at the camera, finds it every time, and turns around yeah, my routine is over, but your soul has still been taken. Thank you very much. Stays in character. I love it. And I also love how I remember when I was growing up, if you dyed your hair of any non actual real in nature hair color, I this is the thing, I got suspended for school from shaving side of my head. This is how it was in the 80s and 90s. The fact that she consistently has blue hair and competes with it is one of my favorite little punk rock things that she does. And of course, punk rock isn't cool anymore, but I consider it punk rock that she's doing. And sticking vaults, also
Trinity's
very punk rock
got the dyed hair too. It's
yes,
it's
I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of great gymnastics. Jayla Hang's beam is another one that goes down in history for me. So and Khalees Wolford, who has a gigantic release on bars. And I also love that the senior generation is still sticking around, because they're not old. They're all, in their 20s. It's very young for gymnastics. So I love it.
And I think LA 28 is going to be very strong incentive for some of these people that it's their third time around to stick through it. So I think that average is only going to keep going up.
Yeah. I also loved Pacific Rain gymnasts wearing their Pacific Rain pride with the pride rainbow
That was cool.
to Texas
That's
as
cool.
a statement to the governor of Texas, and just their own pride. They didn't say it was a statement. I'm saying it's a statement, to be very clear. I loved seeing that.
It was cool.
And giving a nod to the citizens of Texas who are under a terrible situation there. Some Gymternet news. Feta has announced that she is done with Elite. She's going to Oklahoma. Caitlin Jong also done with Elite, going to Auburn. So you get to enjoy all of these wonderful Elite gymnasts when they go to college, and we cover all the college seasons. We'll talk about them coming up later in 2025. Interesting news. Iowa has settled with Larissa Libby. So Larissa Libby was the head coach at Iowa. She resigned. Her salary, final payout of her $173,349 salary was a settlement of $449,000. So almost a $500,000 settlement. So as part of the agreement, Libby agreed not to sue the university, the state, the Board of Regents, or any of its employees and affiliates for any grievances arising from her employment at University of Iowa. She also committed not to re-enter any university athletics department facilities without prior written consent from the university, unquote, except to attend events that are open to the public according to the settlement. So she was suspended through the postseason NCAA championships and then resigned. Raina Worley is going to be an assistant coach at University of Kentucky. Lindsey Brown of Haiti has received a place at the Paris Olympics.
And
so
it's universality, right? It's not
tripartite anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. Universality place, which is I think if you have less than 7 elite gymnasts in the country and they wanted to help, you're good enough and you can help develop. She's the first elite gymnast ever. She is the federation essentially. And she went through a lot. Haiti has a lot of turmoil. And so for her to even get to the position where she could qualify is amazing. And again, she's an NCAA champion. She's at Penn State right now coaching, and I'm so excited for her. I mentioned this earlier, but in a previous episode, but Tony Ann Williams is going to help Jamaican Gymnastics as the new technical director. So this is another gymnast who got like a single individual spot to go to the Olympics, and is now helping to grow the program, much like Danusha Francis has in the past for Jamaica. And more details on all the competition in the 3 behind the scenes episodes that are up, so you can check those out. If you have feedback for us, we do behind the scenes episode every Friday at noon Pacific. This week, the time might be a little bit different because depending on how Spencer feels, his appointments, that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure it'll be at noon Pacific, but probably. And if you have feedback for us, we'll do answer questions live, or anything you guys send in. You can send them into gymcastic@gmail.com or post them on the forum. If you're a club member, you get your own special section. And until Friday on Behind the Scenes, thank you so much to Ari from Blind Landing. Check it out for being
My
here.
absolute pleasure. Yeah, if you to be in the same Olympic gymnastics podcasting sphere, these are not competing shows. They're totally complementary, and if you like it, go check it out.
Thank you so much for being here. Until Friday, remember to take off on gay, split on rights. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Friday for the Behind the Scenes. Thanks for listening.
Anyone ever, the person that's most here for the love of the sport is Simone.
And I think it's also fun to destroy everyone and dominate the sport completely.